Hi, I'm Diane Sweeney, and I'm the author of The Essential Guide for Student Centered Coaching, among some other books on the topic of student centered coaching. And I've had the opportunity to partner with Northern Illinois University for a few years now to support implementation of student centered coaching in the greater Chicagoland area. And our partnership has been great because what's happened over the years is we've been able to just continuously grow in our practice with the participants who choose to attend. And we're always scratching our heads and trying to figure out how do we keep the learning extending? How do we keep growing in our practice over the course of these sessions? And so I'm excited to share that this year we have decided to provide a variety of entry points for folks who are interested in student centered coaching who may have never heard of it, or it might be a brand new framework for them, all the way up to folks who are deeply implementing and would love to go deeper in their just reflection and their analysis of the impact of their work. So just a minute just to frame out what student-centered coaching is, and then I'll share with you what we have on the calendar for this upcoming school year. So student-centered coaching is a little bit different in its approach to coaching in that we really focus on partnering with teachers as coaches to move student learning along, which seems obvious, but what that means is we're shifting away from taking a deficit view towards teachers or a view where we try to fix teachers and instead move more toward a partnership where we're setting goals for student learning and we're partnering in our coaching cycles to make sure we reach those goals. So it feels quite different to teachers to work with a coach using student-centered coaching because for the teacher, it feels like it's about their students, which they care about and they really want to see students achieving. So, in this session, in this lineup of sessions, I should say, we're going to start in November on November 17th and 18th and provide a foundations session. So, 2 days of deep learning around how do you engage in student centered coaching? What are the core practices? What is the philosophy? How do we align our beliefs with the work? How do we measure our impact? What tools can we use? What coaching logs can we use? What's the process for a coaching cycle? So I'd recommend this session for anyone who is new to student-centered coaching, or you may want to bring someone along who's new to student-centered coaching and you can serve as their mentor and support their implementation. So just know this first session in November is really about the foundations for the work. So we hope we will bring new people into the learning at this session. And by the way, principals and coaches and district leaders are all invited. The second session will take place on February 24th and 25th. And here we're going to dig much deeper into not only measuring the impact of coaching cycles, which is the title of the session, but we're also going to go beyond that. How do we measure our work even bigger than that? How do we measure coaching in general throughout the school? Levels of teacher participation, impact on student learning, impact on teaching practice. How do we create systems to know our impact so that we can possibly communicate with the school board, we can possibly celebrate our work with teachers directly, and just really knowing how coaching is impacting the school and learning throughout the school, whether it be student learning or teacher learning. That's the focus of this session. Again, as always, we will introduce tools, we'll introduce strategies, and the core practices for this part of the work. And then the third session, which will take place on April 14th and 15th. This session is going to be a kind of a different take. It's not going to be as much new content. It's going to be a lot more around looking at your own artifacts from your own work to decide how are we really doing with our coaching work. And by now it'll be the end of the school year, so it'll be April, and you'll hopefully have accrued a lot of artifacts that show your impact, but also artifacts we can learn from as coaches to set goals to grow in our own work, to set goals to continue to build a culture for coaching in our schools, to really envision the longer view for what comes next after this year of work, but really rooting that in artifacts from your own work. So this session will have a lot of protocol based learning, a lot of reflection, small group work. And this session, obviously, you'd want to be implementing because it's going to be based on your story of implementation throughout the school year. So I believe that the registration process invites you to self-select into which of these sessions, hopefully all three, but maybe there's one or two that feel right to you, that really meet you are where you are as a learner and move you along. And so we hope to see you again in Illinois during any of these sessions coming up this year on student-centered coaching.